What type of clients can you expect to be working with as a small business bookkeeper? You guys, I have been at this for about 5 or 6 months. I always judge it by when my daughter was born, since I started this on maternity leave, and I will link the video to that week 1 video, which seems like forever ago here. But in this amount of time, I have gained some varying types of clients, and I've tried to categorize them into groups of clients, what I do for those clients, and how big or small those clients are. I'm going to go through today those groups and specifically what you might be able to expect in the first half of a year, I can't believe it's been that long, of your bookkeeping business. And the first one that I'm going to bring up is, in this tax time, seems so prevalent, but they're a fleeting client, right? These are people that I have really only worked with for a little bit and then they go away. So these are not people that are regular clients of my bookkeeping business. So I'm going to talk about them first. And just to give you a little bit of background information, it is the middle to the end of March. So these tax return clients are obviously asking for my help specifically because it's tax time. But I have about 6 people that fall into this group that have reached out to me specifically to do tax returns or to help them tax prep so that they can do their tax return. So this is a really important distinction to make, and I talk about it a lot in my last video on client issues, which I will link here. I talk about the idea that a bookkeeper and a CPA are different things. A CPA is a licensed tax professional, and a bookkeeper is not licensed to specifically file tax returns. However, when you think about a bookkeeper's job and what their tasks really are to do, it's to prepare people financially so that when tax time comes around, they are ready to file like that. Should not be some big scramble at the last minute, go through a stack of receipts that big. That's what a bookkeeper does to keep things nice and organized from the very beginning. So it comes into people's mind that if they're looking for someone to do their tax return and they don't feel all the way ready to do it, that they might reach out to someone like a bookkeeper. It also is something that they want to reach out to, that they get to that conclusion because a CPA is expensive. Now, I don't want to say that a bookkeeper isn't, but because we have different licensure and different requirements for our actual job title, a CPA is able to charge a lot more than a bookkeeper is for their normal hourly rate and for the tasks that they complete. So this confusion for people that if you reach out to a bookkeeper, maybe they can just file your taxes all for you. It's a little bit of a gray zone. So I have helped friends and family file taxes for years, even before I started becoming a bookkeeper specifically and having my bookkeeping business. But you're not filing someone's taxes for them. You're aiding them in being a self-preparer. So for instance, something like TurboTax is someone being their own self-preparer. My husband and I have done TurboTax for years, again, before I had my bookkeeping business. And when you print that out to send by mail, or when you electronically file and sign your tax return, you are signing as a self-preparer. You are the person that prepared your taxes. So if I were to help my brother-in-law file his taxes through TurboTax, we're going to sign in as him, we're going to do everything in his name, and there's not going to be my name or my bookkeeping business attached to his tax return at all, not even in the slightest bit. Instead, he will be self-preparing, and any questions that he asks me, I'm just helping him in understanding how to file his taxes and gather the necessary things to file his taxes. So it's kind of for me, a distinction that I have to make with people, because I'll frequently have them reach out on Facebook or just in the community and say, hey, can you do your taxes? Can you do my taxes for me? And it's like, well, kind of. I can help you do your taxes for yourself. So something that just is a fine line. But there are about 6 people that are clients for tax returns for me specifically. And some of those are family members that I've done it for years. Some of them are friends of family members that have reached out. Some of them are even people that my husband works with. And he said, hey, if you want to do your taxes, my wife can probably help you understand how to do them easily yourself. And I will say that this is generally a cost effective way for just your everyday person or your person that maybe has a small business on the side to complete their tax returns without having to go to like an H&R Block or a local CPA and go through them. So that's my first main category of clients, are people that come to me for tax returns. Separate from that, I'm going to talk about the 4/5-ish groups that my clients fall into. So besides the tax return people, I have 7 other clients, and I've got everything kind of written out here, so I'm going to reference it. But I've got 7 other clients right now that I either work with regularly or quarterly or semi-regularly. And I'll tell you kind of the avenues through which I got those clients. But the first thing that I'm going to talk about are the 4 main categories of clients. I have people that are regular monthly clients. I have people that are regular quarterly clients. I have some tax prep people that turned into monthly clients, and I have some business startup clients, and that one's kind of the weird one out here. So these other 3 categories of monthly clients, quarterly clients, or tax prep / monthly clients, all of those people, I'm doing bookkeeping tasks as far as categorizing receipts, maybe QuickBooks cleanup, maybe we're doing things like profit and loss statements. Maybe I'm scanning all of their receipts electronically, or I'm just creating a system for them to do their monthly bookkeeping and then I check things. So a system for monthly bookkeeping that's not QuickBooks might be like an Excel spreadsheet that is categorized for them, or that has things nice and clean and totaled for them. Or depending on the client, it might even be a paper and pen style of bookkeeping system that then we print off their monthly bank statements and go in by hand on literally paper and with a pen and kind of mark down those receipts. Just because some people like old school bookkeeping like that. But those are kind of the normal bookkeeping tasks. The weird one out here, those are my clients that needed help starting up their business. So I'm going to tackle that really quickly first, and then I'll go into some of the other stuff. So in the business startup realm, you have got people that, number one, don't understand the difference between sole proprietor, LLC, S-Corp, all of those different options for business organization and the structure of your business and your business entity and your tax entity and tax classification, all of those things. And I by no means am a professional with this information, but I've had to work through it enough and I've had to research it enough that I do know the basic differences to kind of try to guide someone in the direction that they need. So 2 different people came to me knowing through the community that I had this bookkeeping business and said, so Rachel, could you help me start up my LLC? And I was like, sure, of course I can. We can try to walk through those steps together. Again, I'm aiding you in setting up your LLC. But I would probe those people as what makes you want to have an LLC versus just a sole proprietorship. And they would explain what they were looking for as far as their business is concerned. Some people want an LLC specifically to protect their personal investments and make sure that if their company is sued, that they can't be sued and held liable as an individual. And an LLC does create this kind of shield around you as a person. However, you have to be careful because there are rules and regulations for a reason, and laws specifically, of why that distinction is made, that the person themselves cannot be sued. So there are things with an LLC like an operating agreement that you have to draft between yourself as the business owner and yourself as yourself. There are distinctions in your financial requirements as far as making sure that you have bookkeeping records. It's literally one of the requirements of becoming an LLC, of having separate business and personal finances. There's also something called piercing the corporate veil if you commingle your finances and what that does to your LLC structure. And then you also have to go through your state with actually filing your LLC. So one person said they wanted to protect themselves, and I was trying to explain that whole process and what protecting themselves really meant, aside from just business insurance. The other person wanted to make sure that they could go to a financial institution and take a loan out for their business to take care of some of the startup funds for their business. And so again, they need to have all these boxes checked, and the bank asks specifically for certain things, like the operating agreement, like your state certificate for your LLC, like your EIN number, which is your tax identification number for your business. And so those two clients came to me needing and they had a lot of questions and they were in need of structuring their business. To be honest, I consider this a lot more like a secretarial part of bookkeeping, because those are not the things that I set out to tackle when I started my bookkeeping business. But from those two startups, I now have bookkeeping clients. I've given them a fresh start to their business, and in that fresh start, I can market, hey, you really need a bookkeeping system. Let's set up something together and I'll keep track of those records for you. Past that weird one though, these other more regular clients for bookkeeping fall into those categories I talked about a second ago of regular monthly bookkeeping. And I have one client in that group where I regularly do their books. And that was my very first client, which you can find the interview for that client here. After that regular monthly client where I do his books in QuickBooks, and I have yet to set a contract with this person because they're slowly phasing out of their business, so I'll actually lose that client. Darn. After that monthly client, I do have a client that I'm doing quarterly bookkeeping for. This is a person that could not afford or didn't feel like they could afford a monthly bookkeeping service, and so they opted for the quarterly bookkeeping, which essentially means that I do what I would do monthly, except I wait until 3 months have gone by, which I kind of tried to point this out to the client, but if your client thinks that monthly is too expensive, and it's possible that that's just a expense they can't afford to make, going quarterly may cut down on the price, but you're going to have more work to do. So it's almost a trade-off. But that person has decided to go quarterly. I actually talked about this a little bit in a video that I'll link there. It was a good experience because it gave me a lot of experience, but a lot of you have also commented that you understood why this person didn't want to pay me monthly and might go to an hourly, quarterly type of rate. But I'll list that there. And then the others fall into that category of they came to me for tax prep, but now because they realized that they had a year's worth of information that had not been recorded at all, they want to hire me on monthly in order to keep track of things so that their cost goes down, because I would regularly maintain their books and not have hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of bookkeeping work to do at the end of the year for tax prep. So I would say that a note here that I think is really important is that tax prep sessions and leading someone towards their tax return is a great time to gain clients. The spring from January to April, even into May, for people that are doing an amended return because they need longer, or maybe not an amended return, but a delayed tax return. They're filing an extension. Those are people that you don't want to ignore. They may have a mess for you to clean up, but if you can convince them that you can clean up their mess and then keep them on a better track going forward, take advantage of that. Use that to your benefit, right? So don't be afraid of those tax prep people. Even if you don't feel comfortable doing the self-preparer route that I was talking about earlier, tell those people, I can get you ready for your taxes. I can get you in touch with a CPA that I've worked with before or that you're forming a connection with. That would be a great way to sell yourself. And then say, and moving forward to keep you better prepped for taxes for next year or for estimates, you can hire me on as your bookkeeper and here's your rate. And have that pitch ready to go when you talk with those people that are interested in a tax return service. There is one last person that falls into a weird category where I would say that I do their quarterly cleanups, but they do their QuickBooks. So this is something I haven't talked about in any of my videos before, is that I do have one client that wanted me to get their business going in QuickBooks, but they wanted a self-employed version of QuickBooks. So there is a very basic level of QuickBooks. I think it's like $7 a month at the discounted rate that a bookkeeper gets. So an accountant version. $7 a month, you can basically have the business owner take care of the books completely on their own. They can still add you as an accountant, so you can go in and make changes for them. you have a lot less leeway with what you can do, reports that you can run, categories and charts of accounts that you can customize. But it is an economical way for a very small business owner to do their own business bookkeeping. You could charge them a first rate to teach them how to use it, and then they pay you quarterly to do a checkup and a cleanup of their business if they haven't been keeping up with it, or even if they have been keeping up with it, they want to make sure that everything's in the right place. So I'd say that that's kind of the weird outlier. But at this point in my bookkeeping business, I feel good. I feel like I've got these clients. But like I've said in some of my other videos, you can choose to be really busy or you can choose to slow down. I think that tax time is a great time for you to try to amp up your business and then let some of those people flow out that you don't want to take on as regular clients. Maybe you do a cleanup and you decide, I don't want to work for that client. I don't want to do their cleanup next year. I'm going to push them in a CPA route, or I'm going to push them towards a different bookkeeper, or I'm going to push them towards doing their own bookkeeping. But you might also have great experiences and opportunities to gain a client through tax return time. So I hope that you found this video helpful in the number of clients that I've accepted in this 6-month time frame, and the clients that I feel like, you know, I'm headed in the right direction with. I know I didn't mention a lot about prices in this video. I've talked about hourly rates before. I'm going to make a completely separate video on what I think as far as a monthly rate and what I think of as an hourly rate, but check in with me next time about that. Thank you guys so much. See you next time.